Hey guys, as you can tell from the other videos on this day's assignments, we're talking about different concepts that deal with place value. We're talking about a number being 10 times greater or 1/10 of a number depending on its place value. We're talking about powers of 10, and we're talking about what happens to the product of those depending on what kind of fraction they're multiplied by. So we're going to start just going over these questions. I'll try to make this video as quick as I can. I am going over several different types of questions, so I want to make sure you have some examples before you take that Mastery Connect assignment. All right, so in this question it says, in which number does the 7 have a value that is 10 times as great as the value in 14.7? So we got to kind of think a little bit. If we already have 14.7, this number is in the 10th place, right? Right after that decimal. If we want to have it in a number that's 10 times greater, that means we have to go up a place value. So we're looking for an answer choice that has a 7 in the ones place. So the only one, if you look, this one's in the hundredths place. It actually went backwards. This one is in it's the same exact number, so that shouldn't make any sense. This one is in the ones place, so it is your actual answer. This one would be 100 times as great because you've moved it twice. So your answer, again, we want one that's in the ones place, so it's 147. All right, on this question, they give us two numbers, right here and right here. All right, and they want us to look at the 6 in each of those numbers. So if I look at the 6 in this number, it's right here, it's right here. So I know this one is it's two places after the decimal, so it's in the hundredths place. All right, and you can see this one is one place in front of the decimal, so it's in the ones. So what we're going to be doing on this question, it tells you to select two that apply, and they want statements that accurately reflect the relationship, which means they want true statements. So we've got to look through each one of these statements and see which two are true. So the first one says the 6 in that first number has a greater value than the 6 in the second number. Well, that shouldn't make any sense because definitely a 6 in the hundredths place is not greater than the ones place because this is in the decimal. This is in the whole part of the number. So we know that that first one is not one of our answers. All right, the next one says the 6 in the first number has a smaller value than the 6 in the second number. So that part is correct. So that is one of your answers. The next one says the value of the 6 in the the second number is 10 times greater than the value of the 6 in 54.162. Now, if you look at this, if we're comparing these two numbers, like if I have this number right here and we're comparing it to this number right here, so we can obviously see that we have same digits but in different places. So if I'm looking specifically at the 6, I can tell that those 6s are two places apart. So 10 times should not make any sense because 10 times is just moving once. So I know just because that says 10 times, that cannot be our answer, which means this one also cannot be our answer. So we know one of our answers has to fall down here, and we just have to figure out which one it is. So this one, the second to last answer says the 6 in this number is 100 times greater than the value of the 6 in this number, which this is true because this is the ones and this is the hundredths place. So there's moving twice. That's why we have, remember, 2 zeros. And it's in the correct order because the ones place right here is greater than the hundredths place. So that is your second answer. And if you look, this last one is backwards. So that's why this one is not your answer. Okay. And remember, we were looking for 2, so we got them. All right, this question doesn't take as much work. It says, Mary's grandson lives in a town 635.22 miles from her home. What is the value of the 6 in this number? We just have to look and think place value. 6 in this case is in the hundreds place. It's in the whole number part. So that means that it's representing 6 hundredths. Just remember, anytime you have answers with the THS, remember those would have to fall behind the decimal, and in this case it's definitely, the 6 is definitely in front of the decimal, so it's definitely in the whole part. All right, on this question they give you a specific number and they want to know how the 8s compare. So if I'm looking at this, I've got to look at these answer choices and decide. First thing I'm looking at is that they're side by side, so they are only one place apart. So we would be using either 1/10 or 10 times. We know it can't be answer B and it can't be answer D because those are saying 100. So those 8s would have to be farther apart from each other. You would have to move twice for that to be an answer. So we know we're choosing between A and C. Let's read A. The 8 on the left is 1/10 the value of the 8 on the right. So the 8 on the left is this one right here. The 8 on the right is this one right here. Would it make sense that the 8, the purple one I'm pointing at, is less than 1/10 the value than the pink? No, because the 8 for the purple is 8,000. The 8 for the pink is 800. So this right here should not make any sense as well. All right, so C, we're assuming is our answer. It says the 8 on the left is 10 times the value of the 8 on the right, which is correct because the 8 in the thousandths place is 10 times greater than the 8 in the hundreds place. So your answer for this one is C. All right, this question is just a true-false question. It just says in the number given, 48.22, the 2 on the right represents 1/10 the value of the 2 on the left. So the 2 on the right is this 2 right here, and the 2 on the left is this right here. So if they're saying the 2 on the right represents 1/10 of the value of the 2 on the left, so that means the green is less than the blue. And we know they're only one space separated from each other, so we know it's going to be either 10 times or 1/10. And if we're talking this green one is 1/10 than the blue, that is correct. So that is true. All right, this is another one. What's the difference in the value of the digit 2 in 4.25 and 4.125? Main thing we need to see is when we look at these two numbers, I can see that this one, this first number is in the ones place. The second one is in the hundredths place. So I know that if I have tenths and hundreds, that's only one place apart. So we would have to have either 10 times or 1/10. So the fact of the matter is we cannot have 100 on either one of these either because we would have had to move twice. So let's read what B says. The digit 2 in 4.25 is 10 times more than it is in 4.125. So they're saying this one is larger than this one, which is true because the tenths place is larger, place value-wise, than the hundredths place. So B is correct. All right, this one's bringing in your powers of 10. It says, which are two ways to solve 2.7 times 10 to the 5th? One way to solve it would be to understand that that little exponent right there means that you're going to write out 5 times, which is what that does right there. You have your original number, and you're multiplying times 10 5 times. So that's one of your answers. All right, the other one is to look if there's 5 as your exponent. That also means you have 5 zeros in your number. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is your second choice. All right, this is a drag question where you have to drag them in order, but obviously I can't do that with just the picture, but I am going to work them out and then number them in order from least to greatest. All right, so if I'm seeing these powers of 10 and I know I'm dividing by them, a couple of things we need to make sure we understand. If we are dividing, you move your decimal to the left. And then you also look at this exponent to decide how many times you're going to move. So the exponent tells you number of times to move. All right, so we're moving to the left and however many times the exponent tells me to. On this question, it's just a quick one. It's just also a power of 10 question. It shows you that you're starting with 73.8 and you are dividing. So remember, when I'm dividing by a power of 10, I know my decimal is going to move to the left and the exponent is telling me how many times. So I'm moving 4 times. So I'm going to start where my decimal is, and I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to fill in my zeros and put my decimal where it's going now. All right, so obviously if I see a number and I'm dividing by a power of 10, I should know that it can't get bigger. So these two would be out from the start. And then I just look and see how many zeros are there in between my decimal and my 7. There's 2 here, there's 1 here, so it has to be answer A. These last two questions are those types of questions where they're asking you what's going to happen to that product or that answer to that multiplication problem based on what is the fraction that it's being multiplied by. So on this one, they want to know which two expressions have a value greater than 5, and then their explanation, they tell it at the end why that is. So remember, this is when we're looking for a fraction that is representing less than 1. That would make it go down, make it less than 5. Or I'm looking for a fraction that would be equal to 1, and that would make the product stay the same. And if I'm multiplying by something that is equal to greater than 1, like an improper fraction, then that is what we're looking for on this question because we want it to be greater than 5. So if I look down these answer choices, the first thing I'm looking for is any fraction that I'm multiplying times this whole number 5 that is larger than 1. So I noticed right off the bat, these bottom two right here are not going to be it because this one is equal to 1. So all it's going to do is make that 5 stay the same. This one is less than 1. So that one's going to make that 5 go lower. So I know these two cannot be my answer. The top 3 could possibly be my answer, but remember we have to also look at the explanation if they have that attached. So when I look at choice A, it says 5 times 5 to the first is going to make it greater than 5 because 5 over 1 is less than 1. Well, right there, that doesn't make any sense. 5 is definitely not less than 1. So that's what makes this question, this answer not the answer to the question. And if you notice, this also works. So that means these bottom two are your correct answers. All right, this is your last question on this video. It says, which statement correctly describes the product of 3 times 4 to the 5th? So first thing I want you to look at is this fraction right here. We think about what happens to the product, what happens to that 3 if we multiply it times 4/5. So we're looking to see, is this fraction equal to 1, greater than 1, or less than 1? Since that numerator is smaller than that denominator, that 4 is smaller than the 5, we know that it's less than 1, and that will make the 3 go smaller or the product be less. So when I look at these answer choices, just by them saying less than, that this product is going to be less than 3, I know that those are my choices that I can narrow it down to, because greater than, for this answer cannot get greater than 0. So I know those two are out. Then I'm going to look at the explanation for each one. It says because on choice A, it says 4/5 is greater than 1. That doesn't make any sense. So that right there tells me it's out. And if you look at B, it also matches because 4/5 is less than 1. The whole thing is correct. That is your answer. All right, guys. Hopefully this video is not quite as long as the last one. Sorry about that. Some of them was just hard to get in without it being a little bit longer. But on this one, I hope that you watched all of the videos that I have listed, and now you go and take your Mastery Connect assignment. There are 20 total questions on this assignment, so please do your best, and I'll be looking for your score and seeing what we need to go over the next day on it. So just let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.